let's go ahead and get into the big topic for today. I'm going to throw these headphones on so we can listen, and we are going to get you guys up to date. This is coming from Senator Sherman. I believe Congressman Sherman, excuse me. I believe he's the congressman for San Francisco, ironically enough. And let's go ahead and hear what he has to say about Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies in general. All right, let's go ahead and get into this. So here's the video. I actually got it in my timeline from Baxed Carbon, but here we go.
Join with me in introducing. I look for colleagues to join with me in introducing a bill to outlaw cryptocurrency purchases by Americans, so that we nip this in the bud. In part because not an awful lot of our international power comes from the fact that the dollar is the standard unit of international finance and transactions. Clearing through the New York Fed is critical for major oil and other transactions, and it is the announced purpose of the supporters of cryptocurrency to take that power away from us, to put us in a position where the most significant sanctions we have on Iran, for example, would become irrelevant. So whether it is to disempower our foreign policy, our tax collection enforcement, or our traditional law enforcement, the purposes of cryptocurrency, the advantage it has over sovereign currency, is solely to aid in the disempowerment of the United States and the rule of law.
Ooh, buddy. He's not completely wrong here, right? Like, that's kind of like the hard part about all of this. So one of the things that I did tweet initially, though, just to kind of call it out on the arguments, it's hilarious that the argument, of course, here is that it would like disempower based on, of course, going through the Fed for essentially our oil supply, when the attack on Bitcoin from Elizabeth Warren is essentially on the power aspect of things. Now, what we are getting to here is essentially a revealing of the true intentions of the United States government when it is discussing banning and regulating cryptocurrency. You see, the initial descriptions, of course, as always, is to put some sort of fear into the public. So we had things like initially like, well, we're using too much energy and that's going to be bad for the environment, right? And then it kind of went into, well, there's a potential for scams and like people are getting screwed out of their money. We need to protect the people. And then finally, boom, we have it. We have the honest to God truth about why they are scared of Bitcoin, why regulation and talks of banning are coming into play. And it comes down to a loss of control for the US government if the dollar is not what everybody is basing their value around on as an international currency. And there is some validity to that, because if we talk about the United States and the shift in the way the United States functions over the past 50 years or so, probably even further back than that, there's been a huge shift away from obviously the gold standard, which went away. And then there was a shift away from production. So a huge part early on, of course, within the United States for wealth generation and being a world power was going to be more military and industrial, right? This is just kind of the natural progression of countries. History repeats itself, that sort of thing. It wasn't based on the currency being ubiquitous, which is what it is now. And so what it used to be was basically merit-based, production-based power, right? Build up a larger military, have more export, build up manufacturing, that sort of thing. If all of those things were still in place, then the currency that is utilized to basically run the economy could be Bitcoin just as well. It wouldn't really matter, because essentially the US government would function off of the cryptocurrency. All of the manufacturers, etc., would function off of the cryptocurrency, and it would be a portion of the amount of cryptocurrency you had based on the amount of services you are basically providing to the rest of the world internationally. What the US basically as a whole now provides to the whole world is a basis currency, or a base currency for everybody to compete around, right? Essentially, they exchange for US dollar. It's all about what the value is compared to the US dollar. So the currency in and of itself is what gives the United States a majority, a bulk of their power, because it's ubiquitous. So to say that he's false or incorrect, I think would be a little amiss, other than, you know, talking about how they kind of made that shift and showed their hand as far as like, well, we needed to control the oil supply, right? When we're talking about energy, that just seems ridiculous, especially considering that was the primary initial attack on Bitcoin. And this is, like I said, essentially them showing their hand. Who agrees, who doesn't agree, that sort of thing within the government. We're gonna find out. Now let's go a little bit positive here though on cryptocurrency in general. This is actually good news, and the US could benefit from this economically as a whole. The initial appeal, of course, for, you know, being a US citizen, for actually migrating to the US, is a merit-based economy where you can work hard and you're rewarded for your hard work and you can achieve the American dream. Now, some would argue that American dream is faltering as money filters to the top. This is a money problem, right? So the argument for Bitcoin in a lot of aspects, it has been, you know, fix the money, fix the world. If we could fix that, then it would like basically go back to that. If the US became a huge supplier of course, minting the most Bitcoins and mining Bitcoin and participating in cryptocurrency and being on the cusp of blockchain technology as far as Web3 and metaverse, etc., it becomes the new gold rush. And I think this is something that a lot of, well, frankly, boomers are missing as far as this entire prospect goes. And because the government is primarily boomers, it's hard for them to grasp this concept, but it would be a huge upheaval of the way the current administration, well, just government as a whole, banking systems and everything currently function. But it could be a gold rush, like I said, or the next gold rush for the United States, for the Americas, for any countries that decide to participate within cryptocurrency. It would be very hard to go ahead and pass anything that would ban it at this point because of the vested interests of large corporations. And I definitely think that that is a huge factor when we are discussing cryptocurrency, especially as it pertains to the United States, because if we're talking about the United States and how much they're dependent on large corporations and big business, then it definitely is a factor. And seeing that most of the money that flows into the government is through forms of donations, essentially, and these donations essentially come from big business and all of that, they have a huge influence over it, especially when you start seeing the participation of large companies into the cryptocurrency space in general. I hope you enjoyed this clip from the Crypto Mining Morning Show every Monday through Friday, 7:45 a.m. Pacific and 10:45 a.m. Eastern Time. You can check out more clips here, or if you're interested in checking out the entire live show, you can check that out down here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next Tuesday.